How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Usually I don't want to make videos so quickly and make a video an hour and a half after I made my last one, but something big just happened. We have another company, actually a pretty profitable company, that is now buying Bitcoin. It's not MicroStrategy, it's not MetaPlanet. It is a new company that actually it's kind of in the tech space. It's actually in healthcare and it's a biotech company. I've never heard of it, but Michael Saylor just announced on Twitter that they are having a Bitcoin strategy moving forward, that they are adopting a new treasury reserve. This is really interesting. I want to explain this. If you don't mind, hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification underneath the video so you can see future videos just like this. I don't know where the price of Bitcoin will be by the time you're watching this. We actually opened the stock market open for the day, and the price is actually falling down on Bitcoin. Now, I think a lot of this, as I said in the last video, is due to short-term headwinds, people being scared of maybe the coming Mt. Gox dump of Bitcoin, which I explained in the last video. I think it's overblown, and that's still months and months away. So put away the FUD for a second. Look at what's actually happening. Don't be so worried. Just think about what's happening. We've had a couple of years ago, Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy adopt a Bitcoin standard, start using debt and treasury assets to go buy Bitcoin, cash flows going to Bitcoin, etc. We had MetaPlanet announce that they're doing that recently. We've had other companies buy Bitcoin, smaller mom and pop shops buy Bitcoin. Now, today, we have another company buying Bitcoin, and it's quite interesting. Keep in mind, as I've said in the last week or two, we've seen a massive political change. I just had to throw this in there because this is interesting. Trump has asked if Bitcoin could be leveraged to solve the U.S. national debt problem. Keep in mind, he's asking if Bitcoin could be leveraged to solve the U.S. national debt problem, not Bitcoin on leverage be used to solve the national debt problem. Like, can we use Bitcoin to solve national debt? This is really interesting. I mean, this is a big debate point. This is a big big thing that he's pushing for now. Would not be surprised to see him bring this up in speeches, in debates. So according to this, Bitcoin Magazine is currently advising Trump on a potential policy. Would not be surprised to see Michael Saylor being spotted on a yacht with Trump or something like that too. I'm guessing there's going to be a lot more of this to come. And there are companies now that are investing into Bitcoin. So Michael Saylor just pointed to this. Semler Scientific announces a Bitcoin treasury strategy. This came out about 35 minutes ago. Semler Scientific, a pioneer in developing and marketing technology products and services to healthcare providers to combat chronic diseases, announced today that its board of directors has adopted Bitcoin as its primary treasury reserve asset. The primary treasury reserve asset. In addition, Semler Scientific announced that it has purchased 581 Bitcoin for an amount of about $40 million, inclusive of fees and expenses. Here's what they say, and I want to show you some information about the company here in a second, but our Bitcoin treasury strategy and purchase of Bitcoin underscore our belief that Bitcoin is a reliable store of value and a compelling investment. Bitcoin is now a major asset class with more than $1 trillion of market value. We believe it has unique characteristics as a scarce and finite asset that can serve as a reasonable inflation hedge and safe haven amid global instability. We also believe its digital architectural resilience makes it preferable to gold, which has a market value of approximately 10 times that of Bitcoin. Given the gap in value between gold and Bitcoin, we believe that Bitcoin has the potential to generate outsized returns as it gains increasing acceptance as a digital gold. And they continue to talk about here. Furthermore, we are energized by the growing global acceptance and institutionalization of Bitcoin, reflected most recently by the SEC's January 2024 approval of 11 Bitcoin ETFs. These funds have reported more than $13 billion of net inflows, with investments from nearly 1,000 institutions, including global banks, pensions, endowments, registered investment advisors. Is estimated that more than 10% of all Bitcoins are now held by institutions, coming from Mr. Semler. Okay, this is really interesting. Uh, Take a look at their company. So keep in mind, they're in the medical space. They're trying to get like acceptance from the FDA for different products. Like this is uh, this is a very different company than what we've seen in the past from companies that accept or use Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset. I've looked at biotechs before. A lot of the time, they are unprofitable. This company isn't. They've actually grown revenue really quickly. I mean, take a look at this. Over the last 10 years, 40% growth. Over the last 5 years, 26%. Over the last year, 20% revenue growth. Now, just this year, they are falling down in price a decent amount. You can see like 2 months ago, they were at $48. Now they're at $22. They're up on the day because of this announcement, but it's mostly because they actually had revenue drop year over year. So just so you know the background on this company, they had revenue drop year over year for the first quarter, but you can see still really good growth. They're EBITDA positive. They're cash flow positive. They have positive net income, EPS. Look at all this cash. Okay. They have zero debt, according to this website. Zero debt. They had $57 million in cash. And it's just been going up. In 2018, they had 3 million, then 7 million, then 22, then 37. Like, it's just being eroded away. In 2021, with the 37 million, it's almost roughly equivalent to 57 million now, right? After inflation. They've started to buy back their own shares. And they're just thinking, wow, even with this, unless we do a dividend and start paying out large dividends, which can be difficult for companies that aren't super stable because then people get pissed off if you lower the dividend or something. We can go put our money into Bitcoin, save our purchasing power, and that will be one of the best investments. So this is fascinating. A pretty profitable, highly profitable company. I mean, you can see their price to earnings ratio is 10. Like the trailing 12 months, their price to earnings ratio is 10. Not crazy for a company that's growing this much. I think a lot of people will be looking at this company just because it is highly profitable now. Now, who knows? It's kind of like a riskier company, but they've been profitable for years. Like I'm considering investing into this company. And with a Bitcoin strategy, holy cow. Now, again, biotechs just in general are more difficult to understand. And you can see like kind of a leveling out if you look at the quarterly. Like maybe it just looks really good on the annual because of the timing of these spikes in revenue. But overall, it's a pretty interesting company to be going to a Bitcoin standard. So I think this means a couple big things. First of all, more companies are coming, right? More companies are going to start buying Bitcoin. And they're going to be in all different kinds of businesses. We have butchers that are buying Bitcoin for their mom and pop shop, for their treasury. We have biotech companies. We have large tech companies. We have all different kinds of companies out there buying Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. And as more companies do this, it makes it easier and easier for more companies to do this. The knowledge is more widespread on how to do this. It's more widely accepted. I mean, to be the first company to do this is very difficult. To be the 15th company, it's very easy. We have more financial advisors, more wealth managers. Everyone seems to be getting a little bit of Bitcoin. And at some point, it's going to be like, this is riskier not to hold a little bit of Bitcoin. I mean, take a look at some of the top tech companies, right? Let's look at, I don't know, let's look at Apple. Apple, AAPL. What does their cash balance look like? Okay, they have $61 billion in cash, $95 billion in debt. So they have $60 billion in cash. They continue to be cash flow positive year after year. I mean, they're getting 5%, so $3 billion. Okay, that's pretty good. But their debt is at a low interest rate. I'm sure they're buying shares back like mad. Like they're buying what? 500 million shares a year. I mean, that's massive. They're spending almost all of their, a lot of their money buying back shares. Let's look at another one. Google. Okay, Google. They have what? $110 billion in cash with $9 billion in debt. Different strategy for sure, but $100 billion. Like, is it riskier to go buy $5 billion worth of Bitcoin or to not go buy $5 billion worth of Bitcoin, right? I mean, especially with the changing in accounting standards as well, you don't have to show a loss every single quarter if the price goes down. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, okay, I would be surprised if one of the major tech companies start buying Bitcoin over the next year. I'd be kind of surprised though if in the next 10 years they don't start buying a little bit. Or maybe part of their investments, they have Bitcoin ETFs. Like there's going to be a way that they get their hands on some Bitcoin. And I think larger tech companies will jump in. Maybe not the largest of the large right now, but I think as we go on, more and more large tech companies will start buying, even if it's not the largest. But I mean, keep in mind, like Square, I think Palantir has some Bitcoin. Square has some Bitcoin. Square is not small. Like Square, obviously run by a very pro Bitcoin, what is it, SQ? Now Block. It's run by Jack Dorsey, very pro Bitcoin, $41 billion company. They have Bitcoin on their balance sheet. We have, USDT Tether that's buying Bitcoin. Obviously, they're a crypto company, but I mean, you look at a company that's making $5 billion a year in just interest income, like they're a large company. They are probably a $50 to $150 billion market cap if they were actually traded, right? If they were a public company. So yeah, I mean, it is interesting to think about what's coming. Let me know your thoughts though. Again, don't get stuck in the day-to-day. Bitcoin's down right now, but like I've said before, it can change on a dime, especially depending on ETF flows. And as more news comes out like this, more and more people will be excited, will want in on Bitcoin. So yeah, it's exciting. I mean, again, this is a company that's going to probably continue to buy Bitcoin for years and years and years, just swallowing up more supply. Let me know your thoughts. Again, if you want to trade crypto, there's a link to Margex. I'll see you in the next video.